Good morning. Happy hump day. It's Wednesday, April 9th here in the year of our Lord. You're tuned into the Ted Manila Information Show. That over there is the Ted of the show, Ted Rall. I'm Manila Chan. This is the show where we bring you way too much information, mostly stuff you never asked us to bring you. So if you're looking for that straight lace show, this is not it. So we're live Monday through Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern. So please be sure to hit the like button, smash it, click on it like a million times, and make sure you follow the show wherever you're consuming.
It'll be like voting in a DNC primary, you know, a little rigged.
I think there's some news about that, Ted, that's kind of been glossed over. About I need to look into that, but there was a couple like million votes somewhere in a state. I can't remember which one, but
really,
yeah, I don't know. Yeah,
DNC
brought into question. Yeah, somebody sent it to me. I can't remember. I didn't have a chance to look at it, but that's
I'm asking my grok right now.
Asking the grok.
Yeah.
Well, it's Elon, so Elon's AI is going to be like, yeah. there were millions,
zillions, quadrillions,
millions and millions of wrongly accounted for votes. Anyway, so today we're doing a couple of the top headlines. The main headline, which the TMI show had a little row over, is this attempted assassination plot against Donald Trump, which we'll get into. The second one, with the crazy Ryan Routh guy with the skinny dude from North Carolina with the multicolored hair. But there's like new information that came out that the mainstream media is not covering. And gee, I wonder why. Everybody's talking about tariffs. We're guilty of that too. We're going to talk about that as well because there's big news on the tariff front. So we're just going to cover the top headlines today and see what unfolds for the rest of the week so we can get appropriate guests for that. So, but Ted, I feel like we can't keep up with the headlines that is impacting, I mean, truly, it's impacting the world, the tariffs, because Trump has slapped pretty much every country in the world with tariffs. Like we said, even the McDonald Islands off the coast of Australia, the southern coast, where
you know who's like waiting for his tariff notification on the radiator right now. Clovis. He's very deeply concerned.
Oh, for his own.
Yeah, because
personal tariffs.
Right. Trump. I mean, as the penguins go, cats can't be far behind.
That's true, and Clovis is Russian.
Well, that's true. That's he's hoping that's going to help him.
Well, right now it ain't helping anybody.
It hadn't been helping him for 3 years. That was rough for him. Do you remember? We talked about this, and I kind of feel like you almost kind of, like it's the kind of story that like it's true, but you sort of like you don't really internalize it because it's so ludicrous.
It's absurd.
It's absurd. The cat show people, the people who put on those, like, who officially decide which cats are prettiest and stuff. They, I forget what they're called. Anyway, they tried to rename Russian blues Ukrainian blues during the war.
Look, we just saw Clovis walk behind you. He's like, the door.
He's like, I'll show you my tail. When I hear that shit.
He's
like, I'm not a Nazi cat. I'm out of here.
I remember that, like, they tried to rename it, but then when that was unsuccessful, just like Trump's Gulf of America thing.
Yeah, that's more successful in that he's got like Google doing it.
I mean, that's true. But then they tried to ban the Russian blues from the cat competition.
Yes. And they tried to ban the importation of Russian blues. But you don't really import them. People are so stupid. They don't come. I mean,
I know.
It's a name, okay? Like, they're already, the call is coming from inside the kitty litter box. They're already here.
The cats are here. Terrifying. But then there was a lesser known story. There was a lesser known story, Ted. What would you call them? Like the arboretum people, like the most beautiful tree of the year or whatever.
The botany bitches. I mean, whoever.
Yes. They tried to ban a certain type of tree competition.
Big botany.
It's big botany. There is a similar, there's a dog competition, the cat competition. Then there's like a botany competition of like
tree.
The prettiest curated tree. I don't know, whatever.
Right.
The people that do like the Japanese.
Come and jerk off to your bonsai.
So, yeah, the bonsai trees and all that stuff. They weren't allowing a certain type of Russian tree to be in that competition. Like some sort of miniature tree from Russia that's from the Far East.
Right.
That is similar to like a bonsai. Like, so it's these trees that you can trim and prune, that stay yay big, and they try to ban those Russian trees.
They did for a hot second. Restaurants were calling it Ukrainian dressing.
Oh my!
In their salads,
freedom fries.
Yeah,
fries. That's all I can say. And sadly, there are a couple of very well-known Russian establishments. Like there's one called Russia House here in downtown DC. They were vandalized. They were forced to take down the name. Like it's been here for decades.
There's some very famous Russian restaurants here in New York. Similar things happened. Their windows were broken and stuff like that. Oh,
that's terrible. And these are like Russian people who
probably
fled.
Came before the Soviet period, probably, right? A lot of them.
Like their families have been here for decades and decades, and these are small family-owned businesses. It's not like you're vandalizing Starbucks, right? Like down with capitalism. These are like little family-owned businesses, and they all the ones that I've seen in my area, anything that said Russia was taken down. And so anyway, we're kind of going. That's tangential to the first headline, which we'll get into because I think people want to know what about this plot, right? And we should note that there is an Iranian plot that's I saw a little bit of it that was covered on mainstream media.
Yeah, I saw that too.
NBC News. So there was a Iranian national I think he might be a national, but he allegedly was plotting something with the state of Iran. And I've seen photos of him wearing like a construction guy vest, you know, and like a bandana and stuff. And that's the image that they showed, at least on NBC streaming, that he was plotting to kill President Trump. Only because our first story, that guy failed when it was candidate Trump. So let's get into the headlines. But make sure you guys hit the follow button, the subscribe button. Help us do this thing. All right, let's roll.
Right. Manila teed up the assassinations really nicely. Alleged would-be Trump assassin Ryan Routh. You might remember him. He was the dude who was caught in September of last year with a rifle at the fence outside of Mar-a-Lago while Trump was playing golf, waiting for Trump to play golf, in what authorities said was an apparent assassination attempt on the former and then future president. Now the DOJ is seeking to admit evidence in court, arguing that Routh also thought about shooting down Trump's plane with a rocket-propelled grenade launcher. He apparently sought those weapons from Ukraine the month before. So that's what the DOJ told the judge in a new filing. The court should admit Routh's August 2024 attempt to acquire anti-aircraft weapons as direct evidence of his assassination attempt. Routh sought to purchase the devices online from an associate Routh believed to be a Ukrainian with access to military weapons, the DOJ says. The attempted assassin told his contact via Signal, the, of course, encrypted messaging app made famous by Michael Waltz, who apparently uses it for everything from recipes for his own homemade pasta.
Telling his staff he's going to the bathroom.
Yep, for
that. A while.
And also for top secret attacks against Yemen. He asked it, send me an RPG or Stinger. Those are the surface-to-air heat-guided missiles that were made famous in the 1980s when Reagan sent them to the Mujahideen during the Soviet occupation of Afghanistan. And I'll see what we can do. Trump is not good for Ukraine. I'm not exactly sure how Ukraine was supposed to send them. Maybe by Federal Express, maybe by
I don't
DHL.
know.
I don't know how they were supposed to do that. He was allegedly hidden in the shrubbery. Every time I hear the word shrubbery, I have to think about Monty Python. He was hidden in the shrubbery! And pointing his SKS-style rifle through the fence line of Trump International Golf Club. It's not Mar-a-Lago, right? It's one of the...
it's
adjacent
property
to it, in West Palm Beach. When the eagle-eyed Secret Service agents spotted him like 6 hours later and fired shots in his direction, forcing him to abort the attempted attack. I guess he drove off, right, and then was caught. The DOJ said that Routh and his associate, whom he thought was a Ukrainian who could get his hands on military hardware, talked about the July attempt by Thomas Crooks, unfortunate last name, to assassinate Trump in Pennsylvania, with Routh writing, "I wish," before the two began discussing Routh's attempted purchase of a weapon. Routh and his contact, I guess we're assuming that this is an informant or a sting operation type thing, discussed purchase options, the DOJ said, with Routh asking about the price and whether his associate could ship it to me. You know, like on eBay, sometimes you can pick it up in person. I don't know if anyone ever does that. I never do. I always have it shipped to me.
No.
But like if it was a heavy object, like a bike or a guitar or something. RPG. Might be better. You know, you could save that shipping fee. Just pull up your F4, your F150 up there and pick it up. Yeah. Before Routh then explained his reasoning, I need equipment so that Trump cannot get elected. Going to the local store for such an item is impossible. Very true. However, you are at war, so those items lost and destroyed daily. One missing would not be noticed. Routh seems to
not wrong.
Routh seems to have noted Zelensky regime's profit-making scheme that they've been doing for the last 3 years.
It's implied.
If tens of millions would not be noticed, one missing would not be noticed.
Yeah, one more.
True.
Why not, Ted?
Do you think Trump will be good for Ukraine? He asked his contact. The prosecutors claimed that the two continue to discuss the possibility of Routh securing a rocket or missile launcher, and that Routh sent his contact an image of Trump's plane and wrote, "Trump's plane. He gets on and off daily." I'm not exactly sure.
The one that says Trump on it.
I don't know what the contact may be. I'm not really sure what the contact's supposed to do. Oh, like, so that's the plane.
It's that plane with a golden Trump word on it.
Like, now I get it. Oh. You know, it's like when Paul Verhoeven, the famed film director from Holland, he was trying to get funding for Starship Troopers, which had very expensive CGI scenes of alien insects. He couldn't convince his, it's Hollywood, so the people are dumb as rocks. And so he couldn't get the producers to understand, no, it's going to be really cool. So finally, at personal expense, 6 figures, he paid a CGI company to create like a 2-minute fight scene of the alien bugs. And then the producer was like, "Oh, that's cool. Me like big scene. Me pay big money to see more." So it's kind of like that. Like, Routh allegedly sent this picture to his contact, his alleged Yuki contact, and said, "Look, so this is the plane, the Trump plane. So now you understand. So
we shoot at big planes."
Stinger missile. By the way, I don't think the Yukis have Stinger missiles. I don't even know if they're still used. Well, I think they're probably still used in Afghanistan sometimes. But
how big? Okay, I'm just trying to wrap my brain
around. Stinger
missile
it's fucking massive.
That's what I thought. So I just want to wrap my brain around this plot. First, let's get the ridiculous out front. Like, just okay. Let's assume that the DOJ
it weighs about 50 pounds. Okay.
50 pounds?
Yeah, it is man portable. You've probably seen pictures from the 1980s Afghan Mujahideen period, but where one guy launches it. But it's not like just any derp can do it, and it's long. It's 5 feet long, and so
so how do you get something like that?
You have to pack it.
There.
Like my father very kindly gifted me a pair of speakers that are maybe about 3 feet high, and they came in a box that is like the size of, you could bury Zelensky in it comfortably. You could bury 2 Zelenskys in it comfortably. It came in a box that's like 6.5 feet tall. I mean, it's like the size of a coffin. And so, imagine you'd need probably like a 9-foot long, 3-foot wide container for your very subtle.
And you'd have to really, and then you have the fragile sticker.
He's
all
in Florida,
over it.
So he's gonna be porch pirated, like after they deliver it. The locals are just gonna steal it.
Well, no, so this guy Routh is a North Carolina native. Did some short stint in Hawaii, then made his way to Ukraine, and he was back and forth, and somebody was funding him. Right. So like the more serious part of this is, here's what I don't understand. How did a guy who has no actual provable CV, no curricula vitae to show, that he did anything other than he was a handyman maybe, and he tried to launch a tiny home business in Hawaii that he sold 2 whopping tiny homes, find his way into Ukraine. And we have video of that. We've seen, right? And he came to the U.S. and got multiple meetings with Congress members. I can't get meetings with Congress members.
Good point.
How did this guy get it? Right? So that baffled me. And so Routh's whole story has kind of been buried, the last 6 months after Trump indeed won. And it's just been like drinking from a fire hydrant ever since Inauguration Day. So I could see why his story is easy to kind of get lost in there. But I also think the mainstream media doesn't want to cover it because they hate Trump and they'd rather focus on, other stuff. And that's fine. Obviously the whole Elon, just everything is a clusterfuck, right? So I get it. I get why maybe this story can go away. And obviously, a lot of the neocons want the war to continue. But I mean, look at this upstanding citizen of the United States, Ted. Send all military, I don't know what he's trying to say, but send all military to Azovs. He's pro-Azov.
Right.
I mean, he's pro, like, just, I can't even wrap my brain around how a guy like this suddenly gets all the money to go to Ukraine, make high-level contacts in Kiev, come back to the U.S., arrange for meetings with like actual sitting members of Congress who afforded this weirdo.
I know, it's even stupider than that movie, Charlie Wilson's War. I mean, and that's stupid. It's very stupid.
Like, how do we explain all of that? And then this guy shows up at Trump's, golf club and hangs out for 6 hours after literally Trump had a near miss the month before. Right?
And my personal favorite detail of that is that the assassin in Butler, Pennsylvania, was bonking around on top of the metal building full of the cops who were supposed to be guarding Trump. Hey, what's that? What's that up there? Oh, that just must be that's just a raccoon.
It's a raccoon on a hot tin roof.
Yeah, we don't know. That's a Tennessee Williams reference. He was a gay playwright. You remember him?
We can't do the accent. Robbie's making a scrunchy face.
No, there's different hillbilly accents.
Mine's Robbie.
Mine's
no
more
offense,
Kentucky.
Robbie. We love you.
That's all right. I'm used to being bludgeoned by y'all every single damn day in the pre-show meeting.
That is not a fake accent, by the way, coming from Robbie.
No, it's not.
However, I did grow up just 42 miles away from the Mason-Dixon line, and I had many neighbors who they called an egg a hen fruit.
That's true.
No,
they are.
My in-laws speak with that accent, or a similar accent. But
really?
Yeah, they're from rural North Carolina.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's
that's actually there are many different. The Carolinas and Georgia have really beautiful accents. Actually, I'm not even kidding. I mean, we consider them, to be hicky, but the truth is they're really. I mean, if you if you just listen to it, it's definitely easy on the ears. Like I've always thought, like when you marry someone, you want to make sure they have a nice voice. If they don't have a nice voice, it's hard to hear them every day. You know what I mean?
My mother-in-law, who is a retired school librarian, sweet as pie, and she has that lilting Southern lady accent.
Yeah, that's very sweet.
It's very comforting to hear her talk and everything. She could tell you that a nuclear weapon is on its way from Moscow, and you're just kind of like, oh, okay.
Well, NPR can do that too. I mean, they'll deliver that news exactly in the same tone as they deliver all other news. This morning at 8:00, a 35 megaton nuclear device detonated over the City of Lights, Paris. Paris is no more. We go to Brussels.
We'll go now to Brussels.
Well, the thing that always amuses me is that every presidential campaign, whoever the Democrat is that's running, they somehow spontaneously grow this god awful Southern drawl. Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris.
She did live in Arkansas, and so she had some exposure to it.
Yeah, she was married to Bill a long time.
Bill did. He worked hard to get rid of it.
Yeah, well,
that's getting rid of it. What he had, like what we know now.
Have you been to Arkansas? He's not even from the metropolis of Little Rock. I mean, he's from Ozarks. Yeah, that's the Ozarks, man. That's
Bill's current accent that we know.
Oh, that's watered down in a big way. Yeah, it's been Easternized. Oh. Yeah, it's been heavily Yaled. Yeah.
Wow.
Wouldn't you say?
I did not know that.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, folks.
He's hardly got any accent at all.
Now, folks from Arkansas and Louisiana have a really distinct accent, especially where they come from. Southern Missouri is that way too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh well, there you are. I needed to bring our own Southerner up to the.
I do like Missourians though. They're nice people. There.
Oh yeah, that they are. No, it's funny because. Whenever I talk to people up here, they're like, you have such a nice accent. So, well, thanks. So do you Yankees. Y'all sound funny to me.
Although I'm not sure if Montanans, they're north, but are they really Yankees, considering that Montana wasn't even in the
No,
Union?
it's its own place.
Well, it depends where you're from. Let's say if you're from Virginia City, I mean, it's probably more southern than what Alabama is, because it was settled by people, primarily from the South, before the war even started.
So it's Montantucky.
Pretty much. I mean, Montana is the Afghanistan of the United States. It's
I always call
very
it the
Kazakhstan
Kazakhstan of the United States because of the
pick one.
The big grasslands. It's massive.
Similar sentiment.
Yep.
Similar sentiment. Well, this guy Ryan Routh is from North Carolina. He seems to have lost
he's not
away.
He's not the proudest product of North Carolina.
Yes,
No.
so he's not the best representation of a Tar Heel state because he's over here in this image that we see that's real.
Yeah. Azov, which we know what that is. I mean, even people who are in the tank for Ukraine still, even they have to admit Azov's not all that. Even they.
Yeah. So and even.
If you're into anti-Semitism, those are the people.
Ted, everyone knows that Azov is reformed. They're no longer the white supremacist Nazis. They are now fighting. No, they're now fighting the good fight against those.
That's why they just have the old name, because I guess there's no way legally in Ukraine you can change the name of your battalion. You're stuck with that for life, and you can't change the abstracted swastika logo. Again. Graphic arts are very important in Ukraine, and it's trademarked, it's copyrighted. They're not allowed to get rid of that swastika. So, and they can't stop wearing swastikas on their uniforms. Also, branding. It's very regrettable.
The question is this guy, Ryan Routh, not this guy. We know this guy's insane, but is Ryan Routh? Is he mentally competent to stand trial? I
actually love that question.
As the DOJ brings this against him, because it's been 6 months. They've had all this time to dig up the dirt on his background, to dig into his social media, dig into his Signal chats. Mike Waltz might be spearheading that because he's a Signal pro.
Yes.
Is this guy competent to stand trial? Like he's
yes,
right?
Yes.
Well, there's the answer of to what the court will decide, and then there's the answer of what common sense decides. Those are not the same answer. No. I mean, it's almost impossible to get to insanity defense. Almost never works in this country. I mean, Charles Manson didn't get an insanity defense, okay, and he had a swastika carved in his forehead, okay. So yeah, basically, it's almost impossible. It just basically never works. The courts always kind of say, nah, basically if you're not swallowing your own tongue, they let you serve. And even if you are swallowing your own tongue, they put you on trial. You know that. How many people besides John Hinckley, who do you know who ever got a successful, insanity defense? All these school shooters, they all have to fucking stand trial and be sentenced. I mean, but I don't think it should be like that. I look at that guy and I say, okay, I live in New York City, where we have the highest concentration of lunatics on the streets. And I'm not even counting the people who work on Wall Street, but the people wandering around the streets, sleeping on the subway, talking to themselves. And, I'm like, I know what an insane person looks like. That there is an insane person. Okay.
Right.
So Ryan Routh is insane. He's a lunatic. I'll just say it.
He looks crazy.
He has
crazy eyes.
He has,
his neighbor here is saying he's really nice. His neighbor in Hawaii.
Crazy people can be nice.
He's like, yeah, he's really nice, very friendly, very welcoming. And
crazy people can be friendly. Sane people can be unfriendly. But anyway, the point is, he's obviously a fucking lunatic. But I don't think he should stand trial. I think he's a lunatic. I think he should go to the loony bin. That's where he belongs.
No, if
inject him full of drugs.
If you're able to get a international plane ticket, go meet with people, send out emails, if you're a functioning member of society. Well, in this case, far be it for me to agree with the government. In this case, I do. I mean, the dude, he has more than three neurons firing. So there's just 2 days in a row, Ted, where we're just disagreeing. Yesterday it was over the tranny, and now it's over this. So typically we agree on things.
By the way, there's a trans reservation now that we're not even doing, and I sent it into the we don't have a Signal group chat. We should probably get Michael Waltz to hook us up with that. We have a different group chat. We won't tell the NSA where ours is.
Yeah.
But anyway, in our group chat, I put it in. I was surprised you guys didn't want to do it. Did you hear about this story about, and this is like going off script, but whatever, this never happens on the TMI show. But like did you hear about this story about how the White House is now ignoring media queries and questions to the White House press office from any reporter, including reporters at the New York Times and other mainstream organizations
with the pronouns
that have, in the signature line, my pronouns are, and so on the grounds that they are not fact-based people, and therefore they could not be trusted to, they shouldn't be dealt with. So basically, they just started doing this, and then at some point, they got the White House press conference office to comment and say, we don't talk to anybody who has those in their email. We just we ignore those.
I find that kind of hilarious. Well, at any rate, this
comments.
That's an
thoughts.
No, that's an aside.
What do you think? Is that okay?
They can talk to whoever they want.
Okay. Well, that's clearly true. But
you can't make somebody talk to you. I mean, I can't.
Yeah, but I mean, is that a reasonable reason not to talk to a reporter to a reporter?
I don't know. I wouldn't do something like that, but if that's their prerogative, like, all right, you're disqualified simply because you're some person that insists on.
I have an idea.
Call me she, her.
I think the rule should be that you only have to say your pronouns if they're not obvious.
Right. Like
if Clovis's pronouns are bark, bow wow, and dog, and you're like, but you look different, then I think he needs to explain that to us. But if you look at him, you're going to be like, I know he's meow cat.
That would be like if my signature line that also included a photo of myself and a link to my work and whatever, it says, sincerely, Manila Chan, Asian.
I knew you were going to say that.
So,
it's like race, white, non-Hispanic. Everyone knows. They can tell by looking at me.
Right. So
but hey, you could be transracial. Like you got identified as an Asian or something.
Or I'm 6'2".
Okay, wait.
What if someone says my height?
Ted Rall.
My
tall.
height. Tall. It's like, but maybe I identify as trans short or trans dwarf.
That's true. In your heart, you're short.
That's actually true.
Well, so in
my heart, I'm very short.
Listen, I know how to get the TMI show press credentials in the White House. I've got this figured out.
Good, let's do it.
So what I will do is I'll apply, and I'll tell them white dude, Southern drawl, and that will get me right on in.
Done.
That could work.
Pronouns. How about
this is
pronouns?
Supposed to go with our later topic. Yeah. See, this would tie in with the AP topic. All but okay, Robbie, we got to do our first ad read because it's that time.
Well, we don't have enough people on Rumble right now, so it ain't gonna happen.
On Rumble.
Yeah, it's gotta be on Rumble.
Oh, I'm looking at all the other numbers.
It's a Rumble ad.
Yeah, because what is that? Back in the day, Rumble, but the ad reads, they would just take all of the numbers from all the different socials and just let you do it.
Oh.
However, that started getting people banned off of YouTube and other things. So now it's a Rumble specific ad. So you gotta have enough people on Rumble to make that happen. So Rumblers, share the link.
Yeah, get some eyeballs up.
Especially if you want to hear that ad.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey,
this time we want to help feed us.
Well, this time,
it's an ad for. Is it an ad for a Stinger missile? We're not saying it is, but we're not saying it's not.
Ooh.
Well, I mean, I don't want to bury the lead, but I think y'all will like the ad a lot.
RPG.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I always said I wanted.
It could be explosive.
I'm
not going to say anything about Tannerite, but I mean, just saying, it could be about Tannerite.
Okay, so we'll save that for later. See how the numbers go. Okay. All right. Thanks, Robbie.
Welcome.
All right. Let's move on to numero dos.
All right, we're moving slowly here. We got to pick it up, pick up the pace. With the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs taking effect today, the biggest trading partner, China, says, bring it on, fuckers. Beijing has promised to fight to the end after Trump imposed 104% tariffs against China. So Beijing, not being left out, said, we'll call your 104 and raise you 84, bitch, on all U.S. goods as the world's second largest economy refuses to back down against Trump. The retaliation came just hours after Trump's tariffs against 86 countries took effect at just after midnight last night, Eastern time, with successive increases raising duties on all Chinese goods to 104%. According to Eurasia Group China expert Lauren Goldman, unofficial government-linked sources in China say that the Chinese are prepared to go after us in 6 ways. Number 1, halting any collaboration on fentanyl-related efforts. So this is good news for all of you crackies and meth heads. It's going to be a lot easier to score.
Hunter Biden,
so this is like, the Trump administration and President Xi are looking out for you. Also, no more agricultural exports from the U.S., so they're going to have to make their own McDonald's hamburgers over there without any help from us. They're going to slap restrictions against U.S. poultry imports, which, frankly, given bird flu, is probably something they should have already done. They're going to block the sale of American services in China, like design, consulting, financial, and legal services, which means I will no longer be selling my cartoons in China. Actually, that could be a problem because I'm in the South China Morning Post, so I hope they don't really do that. Anyway, they're going to prohibit U.S. movies. So that's, I guess
that's a big deal.
Don't they usually just steal them? Anyway, and finally, they're going to launch investigations into the IP, that's intellectual practices of American companies, cat, pot, meat, kettle. These steps are not just reactionary, they reflect a strategic shift. Now, this part's super interesting. Goldman says that Beijing has been preparing for what they call decoupling. So it will continue to follow its playbook of stepping up support to safeguard the domestic economy and finding alternative markets for trade and investment. I was listening to NPR this morning, the BBC this morning, and they were saying that the Chinese are going to just try to sell more shit to their own people. Although it's not like, why didn't they think of that before? But obviously, Manila, I'm sure your thoughts went to the same place mine did when I read this. I just thought, well, this is kind of like what we did to Russia. We fucked with the Russians, and they're like, okay, well, we'll make new friends, and we'll make new alliances, and we'll just do without you. And we always knew this was coming because we always knew you were assholes, and we knew this, and so we prepared for this. Similarly, the Chinese always knew we were assholes. They always knew that
they know we're mean girls.
They knew something like this would happen, so they're ready.
They've known for the past 20 years that we're mean girls and that the Chinese weren't really part of the cool kids, like they've known. So once they got into the WTO, they've been making preparations ever since the last 20 years for the day when it would come that the mean girl would be like, you're not cool anymore.
And we totally don't like you and fuck off.
You're so ill. And that's basically, what Trump has done. And now the Chinese are like, okay, that's fine. We've been consulting with Russia on how to handle this. They seem to be doing better with, 4% GDP growth, whereas everybody else is struggling behind at like 1-ish, 1.2-ish. And Ted, just breaking moments ago, as you were reading this, the EU has already replied.
We knew that was going to happen today. Tariff. What did they say?
So they're saying 25%.
Okay. So it's interesting. I mean, even though these are retaliatory, I should point out that they're still lower than
what Trump is doing. 104? What is it? I want to know how that number is arrived at. 104.
Well, apparently it was relied upon by some economist who says that the Trumpies didn't talk to him and they didn't apparently they didn't calculate them correctly. They're only really supposed to be about a quarter of as much as Trump calculated.
Yeah, and then there's this weird rift between Peter Navarro, who is now free from prison, along with Elon Musk, because Peter Navarro is saying this is the tariffs are fantastic, and Elon's like, STFU, you're a moron, and they're fighting it out publicly. Caroline Leavitt, the press secretary, is like, I don't know. I'm just going to let boys be boys. I'm not getting involved. That's really, I'm barely paraphrasing, but that's pretty much what she said. She's like, boys will be boys. We're just not getting in the middle of that. Because Peter Navarro and Elon are fighting over tariffs, because obviously Elon is about to go back to his regular day job, which is doing all these different, tech businesses. And tech is going to be massively, massively hurt by these tariffs, because we don't make anything in the US. And if we, all the tech stuff like the Nintendo Switch that's coming out, that's going to increase prices dramatically. So we're actually seeing right now, Ted, people are starting to rush out. There might be a run on consumer goods, especially electronics, because the prices on them are due to go up an estimated 40%. So if you need like a washer or dryer and you've been, thinking, oh, I'm going to wait for the Labor Day sales, right? Maybe you need to redo your math, because that washing machine is going to go up 40% because of the components and where it's, everything that's coming from China. We don't make anything here. Toys are, and toys are a big deal in my house. Obviously I have a little one. Toys are going to go up. They estimate at least 25% on toys. And they say, consumer interest groups say that around, I think 85 or 89% of toys that are played with by American children, basically 80 to 90% of all the toys American kids play with come from China. So we don't even make toys for our kids here in this country.
We'll go back to the original style. Play with a stick and a rock.
So this
American sticks and American rocks.
This is, yes, our own American painted sticks.
Make granite great again.
I guess kids are going to go back to playing with,
get that shell. Get that loose shell. Play with that.
I don't even know how this shakes out, because I can't imagine a world where this continues for longer than a couple of weeks, Ted. Like how?
Well, I can, but I don't think we're going to see that. But yeah, no,
longer than a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think this will be over in like a month. This is all about forcing negotiations. The globalization is here to stay. It's not going anywhere, unfortunately. I think there's a lot to be said against it. But it's what's happening already. I just don't see the powers of big capital allowing this to change. The big business people and the bankers are all really pissed off right now. Obviously. By the way, everything they're used to being heard. Remember our conversation with Lauren Fix, the car woman. She basically said all the cars that are currently on the lot are tariff free. That's true about toys and everything else currently at the store.
Right.
If you go to a store and you buy something, it should not be tariffed yet. Now that's going to start to change over time, but presumably.
Yeah. That's why I would say the run is on its way.
I wonder what happens. Like, I'm not sure how this works. Like, okay, so if let's just say the tariff is in effect for, I'm just choosing a period, like a month. And then, so are the goods that are imported during that month subject to that tariff, even if the policy is rolled back later? In other words, like those goods, the premium is paid upon them by the importer here in the U.S. If it's from China, they pay the 104% tariff. Starting today, anything that comes into, say, the port of Long Beach, it comes into that shipping container. So by the time, let's just say it shows up tomorrow, it shows up at, Walmart. Then let's just say like 3 months from now, the trade war is over. But when that thing appears, is that item still subject to that tariff? I suspect yes, because otherwise it would be very complicated to issue a refund for that.
Yeah,
tariff,
and I don't see a world where, let's say, Walmart says, okay, well, the tariffs were only in place those 90 days, and these are the goods we got in those 90 days. We'll just eat it and go back to normal prices. They
will eat part of it, but they can't eat all of it.
Yeah. So I don't foresee a world like that.
It's not really true when they say it will all be passed on to the consumers. That's just not how it works. But most of it will be.
So I think we will see the ripple effects, even if it ends. Let's say it ends in 90 days. I think we'll see the ripple effects into Christmas. Like I think there's going to be a shortage of goods. I think because I know people in New York City actually that do the import export stuff, and they said
any RPGs.
I need to ask
Stinger
how I
missiles?
can get some
Flamethrower drones,
because they bring in a lot of goods on containers. They own big containers, and they say the rates for the shipping had gone up during COVID and stuff like that. So there are ripple effects like downwind of all of this stuff. So it'll stay there, and it'll stay in place like that for many months. So I think you're going to see this, even if the trade war ends.
There will be an inflationary effect. Yeah,
you're going to see those prices stick around on those products clear into December, because it takes weeks for those containers to get here in the first place.
All right.
So
do we have enough, Robbie? Do we have enough people on the Rumble feed to do that ad read? Or no?
Nope, he's shaking. Nope.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, let's move on. A federal judge yesterday ordered the Trump administration to restore the AP's access to key White House spaces after it exiled the AP over its refusal to use Gulf of America instead of, what it's actually called, the Gulf of Mexico. U.S. District Judge Trevor McFadden.
The French labeled it that, right?
That's correct. An appointee of Trump directed the White House to resume allowing the AP into the Oval Office, Air Force One, and Trump's private bathroom. No, just kidding about that part. And other limited spaces when they're made available to other press pool members. The judge also granted the AP's request for access to events opened to all credentialed White House reporters. He did issue some caveats. This injunction does not limit the various permissible reasons the government may have for excluding journalists from limited access events. It does not mandate that all eligible journalists, or indeed any journalists at all, be given access to the president or non-public government spaces. It does not prohibit government officials from freely choosing which journalists to sit down with for interviews or which ones' questions they answer. And it certainly does not prevent senior officials from publicly expressing their own views, like on Signal, for example. No, the court simply holds that under the First Amendment, if the government opens its doors to some journalists, be it to the Oval Office, the East Room, or elsewhere, it cannot shut those doors to other journalists because of their viewpoints. He wrote, the Constitution requires no less. He wrote that obviously to try to protect the First Amendment rights of the government. People forget that the government officials have First Amendment rights too. I actually don't think they should. I think they should be subject to harsher rules than the rest of us, but that's a whole different discussion for a different time. But a lot of judicial rulings coming down. I personally am really on pins and needles over what the Supreme Court is going to decide about this guy, Abrego Garcia, who was accidentally deported to El Salvador. If
it wasn't an accident.
Well, it was an accident.
I don't think it was an accident.
Well, but basically the government is arguing that they have the right. I
think they just don't care.
Well, right. They don't care. But they admit it was a mistake. So they're arguing that they have the right to arrest anyone with a private goon squad of unidentified people in unmarked cars, grab Americans off the streets, and send them to a foreign country and never let them back, even if they're U.S. citizens. That's what they're arguing here. So if that's the case, we've been looking at is Trump a fascist? If SCOTUS rules for Trump, that's fascism. Fascism is here. If the state is allowed to do that.
Well, I was sort of moving to be convinced on the Abrego case. So we'll see. But as far as like this AP thing goes, like the freedom of the press thing, I give no fucks and I cry no rivers for any of these people, Ted, because when our jobs were on the line, when RT got taken off air, when Sputnik got taken off air, did any of these people say a fucking word? Did any of them cry First Amendment?
what happened to us was a lot worse. I mean, what has the AP lost?
These people still have jobs.
Yeah, they still have their jobs, and the company still exists, right? It's not like our company doesn't even still exist. It's done. It's out of business. AP is not, and not only that, right? Like, what has the AP really lost? Oh, they can't go and like repeat the administration's propaganda at their official press conferences.
Right.
That's not even like the one place in the world
You're
where there's no actual news being created is in a press conference. Like you're more likely to find news like on a random street corner than you are in a press conference.
I mean,
so like really truly,
service.
they haven't lost much. I generally feel like you should have solidarity, but it's like
old me prior to 2022. And really it had been growing because of the Julian Assange stuff that was happening. The way the media turned on Julian Assange started souring me. And then myself and my job and my colleagues, we were put in the crosshairs, and nobody came to our defense. Nobody came to our defense and said, First Amendment, who cares who funds them? Russia, China, doesn't matter. Those are American journalists. They deserve the right to be here as well as us. They deserve the right to be on air. Like, you shouldn't. Nobody said that. And they've had years to come to our defense. They had years to come to Julian Assange's defense. None of them did that, Ted. None of them. They used some of our work, some of my work. They've used some of Julian Assange's work. And then when it came time that they should have stood their ground and stood up for him, they shat on him and alleged that he was a rapist, alleged that he was a Russian spy, so I really have a lot of animosity towards who I thought were my brethren, who once upon a time I was in the same press pool with them. I was in among the same pool, the gaggle of reporters, at Capitol Hill, shoulder to shoulder with all these people. And then one day it was like they got a message that came down from who knows who, and it was like instantly whoosh, blocked out. It was talk to the hand. I was like, I'm not kidding you, Ted. I showed up one day on Capitol Hill when the first rumblings of the Russia collusion hoax came to be, and it was like fucking instantaneous. All the people that I would normally, say hi, chit chat with or whatever, have a cigarette with or whatever, all of those people instantly, it was like I had leprosy. Nobody cried for, hey, you shouldn't malign the press, free press, free press. Nobody said that. So I don't, I'm not gonna side with the AP. No one's taking away your right to speak, AP. You can report on whatever you want. You can say whatever you want. No one's taken you off air. No one's removed your websites. YouTube hasn't removed you from having a channel. No, there has been no collusion to block your right to speak. So, in a sense, I kind of tacitly back the Trump administration on this, where it's like, we don't want to talk to you. We don't want you on our grounds. Then, okay, you're not with us. Like, sorry, you're not invited. I don't think that's right either, truly. But because we're in a tit for tat world and none of these people truly believe in the First Amendment anyway, fuck them, let them burn. That's what I say.
Well, yeah. Well, I said my piece. All right, so let's keep going here. Yeah. Windshield wipers.
Oh yeah. Wait, Robbie, do we have an ad now? Robbie's thumbs up. Okay, let's take a pause on that.
Let's do it.
Let's take a pause. Let's pop Robbie back on here.
Hey, I'm back.
You're back, and we have a message from a sponsor today.
We do. It's actually from Rumble, because I mean, this just really just kind of dovetails into what y'all just talking about. I mean, YouTube and big tech, they censor everybody that they don't like, and that's one of the reasons I'm very thankful that we are here on Rumble. And speaking of Rumble, they have their own coffee, and so that is the ad we'll be getting. And so the Tannerite comes in. My work day starts at about 4:35 a.m. in the morning every day. And so I need strong coffee. And that, fortunately, is what Rumble is going to give us. So it's going to get this thing started. Here we go. Maybe.
We're still rookies. We're still rookies with all the ad stuff.
I think it's. Hold on.
In that time, I'm going to buy some time here and point out on the trade tariff thing. Nerd in the Rumble chat says, the toy collector market is in chaos. All my fellow collectors are shitting bricks. Online retailers like BBTS are jacking up prices already. $100 action figures up to $150. Wow. Okay. So I didn't think about the secondary market of the collectors.
Well, they're ripping those buyers off because those are not real tariffs yet.
Right. Well, that's
unless
true.
You're talking about something, an item
because it's a secondary market
that's currently being produced in China, or maybe it's like on route or something like that. So.
There we go. Okay, it's up now. All right, here we go. Right. Sorry about that.
Technical difficulties. Our sponsor.
They abound. Yes, this is from our sponsor, 1775 Coffee. Weak coffee is for the weak, and at Rumble, weak has never been part of the mission. No fillers, no fraud, and no settling for mediocrity. Just like 1775 Coffee. It's single origin, small farm, hand-picked specialty grade coffee that stands for quality, free speech, and calling out BS when it matters. Forget stale, mass-produced beans roasted, just enough to hide the flaws. Dark roast hits like a Trump tariff. God help us. Medium roast helps keep it bold without the bitterness, and Vitality Mushroom Blend. Real energy and lasting focus. No synthetic garbage. For K-Cups, whole bean, or fresh ground coffee, go to 1775coffee.com. Use the code STUDIO for a 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 in cash. I don't know about the Cybertruck, but I'll definitely take the coffee.
Yeah, the Cybertruck I might not want because,
I don't want to be a target.
Yeah.
Well, where y'all are, that would be a problem.
Although there's supposedly,
here in Montana,
have you seen
not so much.
That video that Musk has been retweeting of people shooting at their Cybertruck, and apparently it's kind of bulletproof?
Well, the glass I knew was bulletproof. I don't know about the body, like the body armor. I've been reading other reports that the siding is coming right off because it's glued on.
Oh, probably depends on what kind of bullet you're using, right? So
true. If you're shooting a 50 cal at it, I don't know.
Yeah, RPG.
That'd be wild.
That's right. I mean, I'm going to have mine FedEx pretty soon, Ted, because I think I don't want the tariffs
You don't think I already ordered mine while we were on the show?
I'm going to get tariffs on my RPG. Damn it.
Yeah, my first target's going to be my neighbor who has their little Yorkie barking all night long last night when it was 31 degrees.
Hey, so there's a question. Is Ukraine on the tariff list?
They are. They have a 10% tariff.
A 10? Why do they get 10?
Because they're already funding all their government. Seriously, what the hell we're taxing ourselves.
What are they producing, though?
Propaganda.
Well, they
money laundering. It is a money laundering.
Wheat, right? What are Ukraine's top exports?
Well, it used to be wheat. I don't know. Now, I don't know.
Well, I think they still do a lot of those.
Beautiful ladies?
Banking, especially in the money laundering.
Beautiful ladies who appeal to racists who are into Aryans.
Oh, one thing. Thomas is actually talking to a Ukrainian girl here at our local school. She told him, I think that you're very cute. And so they're up. So she offered to teach him Ukrainian. And so that's going to be very interesting. No, well, imagine she speaks. Imagine she probably speaks both. She's from Donetsk originally, because here in Kalispell.
So she would speak Russian.
Yeah, one would think. I mean, it's kind of weird because we had a bunch of Ukrainian families that got brought over here late last year
in the Biden years. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it's pretty wild because they go to school, they all speak in English, so we don't have translators or anything because, I mean, why the hell would we? We're in Montana. But it's pretty interesting.
So here's the answer to that question. Ukrainians are basically still corn and wheat, then animal and vegetable fats and oils, primarily sunflower oil, soybeans, iron ore, and then iron and steel products. So they have semi-finished steel and flat-rolled products.
And money laundering. Don't forget the money laundering. That's the most important sector of their economy.
And Nazism.
I guess you could export that.
Yeah.
You can but how do you tariff that?
It's been very successfully exported.
But how do you make money off of it? Like, can you monetize Nazism?
Ephemera, posters, badges.
They did have nice uniforms back then. Maybe
That's true. They did.
They had some.
Wait a minute. Hold on. If we're talking secondary markets on like used products, like collectibles, or are you talking about brand new? Nazi
I'm talking about new stuff.
Azov could make their own badges and stuff.
Oh,
I bet they do.
I guess those would be subject to tariffing.
No, I bet you YouTube would let them sell it too.
That's true.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, because YouTube's in the tank for them. So, okay, I'm going to go away so y'all can keep on doing what y'all do.
All right. I'm glad we got one in.
I'm looking up. I'm asking Grok if the Azov people sell badges that you can buy online.
Patches. I'm sure that they have. I've seen people here in the DC area wearing like patches on their hats, with or there's the Velcro on the top, and you can change out your logos that you put on your hat. I've seen plenty of people here, at least at the height of this whole Ukraine stuff.
The Azov stuff?
I've seen some insignia where obviously I just kind of move away from people like that, because either A, you're a moron and don't understand that that's a racist insignia, or two, you do know that it is racist insignia, and therefore I probably don't want to be near you because, you might like Asian hate on me.
So apparently they don't sell them themselves. Azov has an official site, by the way, azov.org.ua. But they don't sell merch, but there's lots of merch on Etsy. So it sounds like Azov is not on top of their protecting their IP.
Oh. Okay. Well, that's perfect, Ted, because the next story I want you to read, since Robbie already got to the ad, because I have some thoughts on this as a woman and protecting your IP. There's Robbie.
Don't forget. I mean, maybe those Chinese that the Ukrainians have captured are helping them with their IP.
Oh, that's true.
Well, they would just steal their IP.
Well, maybe the Russians have ran out of North Koreans, so now they're starting to recruit the Chinese to help them. So just thought.
Oh, that's why they capture them?
Of course. Well, I mean, what else? I mean, who else is going to run Etsy and maybe help them with Red Note and that kind of thing?
Robbie, that's racist.
Maybe.
That's racist.
What's your point? What's your point?
I'm banishing you back to the background. Okay, one last story, because we've been talking obviously about, like Ted, you just said it, like protecting your IP, and we've been talking a lot about tariffs and cars, and so I thought this was a fun little historical tidbit, because somebody needs to do it.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
Go.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
No, you said you were doing it.
No. I said I was going to, but Robbie already got the ad in. So
okay, I'm happy to do it.
You go for it.
All right, let's do it.
You go for it.
All right. The earliest cars were very different from what we have today. Duh. There's one of those down the street from me. Dude, he drives a 1928 Model A. Anyway, even outside, which means that its top speed is much faster than Manhattan traffic. But even outside of modern amenities like backup cameras and Bluetooth, very basic features that we had, that we take for granted, did not exist. By the way, basically the earliest cars did not even have windshields. They had no way to clear water off the windshields. And actually, that's because the earliest cars didn't even have windshields. People parked their cars indoors because otherwise they'd be full of water. They didn't have a top, right? The first gas-powered car was invented by a German dude, Carl Benz, in 1886. And basically, it was kind of like the horseless buggy, right? And a lot of the stuff that we think car nomenclature comes out of that. Like, why is it called the glove compartment? Because people used to wear gloves when they rode a horse. The earliest motorists wore gloves when they drove cars. Nobody obviously does that anymore. Why is it called the trunk? Because it was an actual trunk that was tied to the back of the early car. And so we kept the name, even though obviously it's not really a trunk anymore. Anyway, the need for better design and functionality resulted in mass market, very affordable cars in the form of the Model T, rolled out by Henry Ford in 1908. But even as the Tin Lizzie, as it was nicknamed, was not fully enclosed. The Model T was easy to operate and built to handle very hard roads, because a lot of roads in the United States were not paved yet. It had a top speed of 40 miles per hour, which obviously was better than horses, but it was challenging to run. In the winter, water-based radiators would freeze and crack. In the spring, muddy roads meant that cars could get stuck, and there was nothing you could do to shield yourself from the wind, rain, dust, a lot of dust, or debris. Before windshields were the norm, they were an optional add-on for the Model T for rich folks, meaning that many early motorists didn't have it. Windshields didn't become standard until about 1915, but they kind of became a hazard. Visibility was limited, obviously, as you know now, if you can't work your windshield wiper, or if, like mine, it gets schmutzy and it just smears the dirt across it rather than lifts it off when it gets wet. When rain, snow, or mud would obscure the driver's view, there was no easy solution to clear it away. What you had to do is you had to pull over, get out of the car, and wipe it clean with a rag.
Can you imagine that? Okay.
Easily. Like I said, like if you're in a situation where your windshield wiper is not effective, you might have to do that now. I sometimes have to reach out and clear my windshield. Yeah.
Were you like 1900? Like
yeah, I'm old school. So one trick that drivers used was to rub a carrot or sliced onion or a pinch of tobacco across the glass, which created a thin film which they thought would help to repel water. I don't know if that works or not. I guess they probably did. But ultimately, you had to stop. And that was the best way to do it. Anyway, in 1902, a woman from Alabama, Mary Anderson, decided she was going to Shark Tank that shit and fix this problem. Right. So she was riding the trolley cars in New York City, and they had windshields and windows long before cars, of course. And she noticed her driver trying to look through the windshield, which was covered with sleet, as the weather often is in New York City. The driver tried a few things. He tried to open both windshield panes to look between. He'd get out every few minutes to clear the windows. Determined to solve this nuisance, she sketched out the idea for a window cleaning device, a hand-operated lever inside the car that controlled a wiper on the outside. So you're like,
right, you reach and...
Anderson received a patent in 1903, but there really weren't very many cars in the U.S. yet. There were only 33,000 in the entire country at the time, and they didn't all have windshields. So there wasn't that much interest. Her patent expired unsuccessfully in 1920, right around the time that cars became more popular. Between 1919 and 1929, the number of passenger cars on U.S. roads skyrocketed from 6.5 million to 23 million. But we salute her for having the right idea a little too early.
So my whole thing about this, why I thought, I mean, first of all, it's an interesting little tidbit of history, because we don't, who thinks about that, right? Like who invented the windshield wiper? Well, turns out it was this sweet little old lady. I'll go back to her picture right here.
By the way, I think
this
that's
sweet
the first
little
person
lady
to ever, you ever see the movie Tucker, about the Tucker car company? It's in the 40s. The Tucker car company was basically put out of, it was very innovative. It was the first car that had seat belts, and it offered the windshield wiper standard. It was optional up until that point.
What year?
And here's the point too. It ran partly on water. It was in like late 1940s, like 1948 or something like that. And so, as you can imagine, big gas did not like that.
Well, I'm sure.
So they killified Tucker.
Oh, of course. Tucker. I've never even heard of it. Well, I wanted to give big props to, I just learned this, that Ms. Anderson here, just before the turn of the century, in the late 1800s, came up with this idea, right? Was it 1800s or right after 1902? 1902. This little old lady, And I would say leave it up to a woman to improve on, like, she's watching you guys operate, because back then, you guys it's a guy operating the trolley car or driving, or you're muted, Ted. So it's like watching these men get out there, and it's like, oh, you silly boys.
Definitely a guy.
Yeah, it's you silly boys getting out there every time going and cleaning stuff off. And she's like,
there's got to be a better way.
There's got to be a better way. So, of course, leave it to some little old lady, some mom. But then, as luck would have it, right, this little old lady gets no credit for it. I mean, except for now, I guess, like 200 years later. She, give Mary Anderson some credit there. She invented, like, she didn't profit off of it, Ted. Like, it is always the
although
case
there are
there
are definitely other precursors to the windshield wiper, I should point out, right? A lot of times things are simultaneously invented by a variety of people all at the same time.
Sure.
Charles Darwin, his theory of evolution, he had to rush to print because he heard that a rival was about to go to press with something similar. So he had to cut him off at the knees. Back in 1896, a guy named George Capewell from Connecticut filed a patent for something called windows of slow-moving craft that's similar to current automotive wiper designs. There's a Polish pianist who also claimed to have been the first inventor. And then there's, in 1911, a British dude, or a British company, Sloan and Lloyd Barnes, filed a patent for a guy named Gladstone's Adams. So
1911. Mary was 1902, and
1903. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And furthermore, like information.
I will say the Connecticut guy was smart, though. He tried to sell it to streetcars.
To sell it to the trolley car,
he sold it to the trolley car people. So and they probably had more money, and not to mention it wasn't really optional to be stopping all the time, right? I mean, people probably yelling.
You're delayed. You're delayed on your stops, but you like Mary
There's
Anderson
an Irishman
visiting New York City,
James Apjohn, who also in 1903, same time, filed a similar patent. So I'm just saying
interesting. So around the same time, but again, because there was no technological advancement like this where word could get out, where people could get a similar idea and copycat each other. This was, a world back when it took weeks to get a letter across America, right? So it's not like Mary heard about that. And she wasn't a trained inventor of any sort, a science person. She actually studied theater. She was a theater lady. That's why she was in New York City. She was a theater woman. And somehow she just saw the trolley guy like going every couple minutes. And she's like, damn it, I'm late for an audition or whatever. And she came up with this idea. And
now they've become very sophisticated. There's all sorts of geometries, different kinds of.
Well, they put the water squirter on there.
And there's and then Cadillacs and Citroëns have windshield wipers that are activated they have a sensor that tells the car if it's raining or not, and it turns it on automatically.
I don't like those.
Yeah, I don't like that shit.
Annoy me. I don't like my car to do shit for me. I want to do it myself.
Yeah, I even though it's probably saved me from getting killed, I do like. I hate that when the proximity detector thing. But I'll tell you what I really hate is the self-guiding thing where it tries to force you back into the middle of the lane.
I turned mine off.
Yeah. No, I don't even think it's safe.
I mean, I'm afraid it's going to veer me off the wrong way.
Not to mention it's New York City. People don't really stay in their lane. If someone's borrowing my lane, I want to get out of their way a little bit.
Right, especially if you're avoiding a double parked car, right? And your car tries to force you back in. Like someone my size, I had to put some force into my steering wheel.
Even for me,
how to turn it off.
Yeah, it's not good.
So that is no bueno. But I wanted to tip my hat to this little old lady, because who knew a little old lady had the first patent, and then all the men stole her idea.
She's popularly credited. Yeah,
but then Henry Ford and later Ford Motors and everybody else, General Motors, everybody else did their own thing because her patent expired, and that's wah, wah. Poor old Mary Anderson never saw a dime. But it's like, that is the lot in life for a lot of women and moms, right? Like, we come up with things, and maybe all at the same time. I invented the chip clip, but I never got to market because it was the 80s and I was a kid. But I used to use my grandmother's clothespins from the clothesline in the back, because I told you yesterday, I have a chip habit. Like, I like to just nibble. I'm a nibbler. I like to nibble on chips. And so I used to roll up my Dorito bags with I'd go steal grandma's clothespins and pin my Dorito bag.
By the way, I love the reason for the rejection. Apparently, when she applied to license it to the Canucks, our 51st state, in 1905. She tried to
sell it to Canada?
Yeah, she tried to sell it to a Canadian company. They said, we do not consider it to be of commercial value. They said they couldn't see the value of her invention because they were worried that the drivers would be distracted by operating the windshield wipers and by the moving wipers. They'd be like, whoa, 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 whoa.
Things moving in front of me.
Yeah.
What do you think that was, Ted? Sexism? They're like, really what it was they're like, lady.
No, you know what this is? This is, again, it's big sleet. The power of big sleet is everywhere.
We take for granted.
Big glass obscurity.
Well, no, they want you to wreck because then you buy new cars.
True.
You get new windshields.
Safe light replace, safe light repair.
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, so the predecessor to Safe Light, whoever invented the windshield, was like, no.
Yeah.
I want a rock.
And you know Safe Light's in with big gravel. Like, they hire gravel trucks to drive across the country with like spilling a little bit of gravel,
sprinkling
and then
it.
You get the little stone. Like, the second you get your Safe Light replaced, the next day you get like another like hole in your windshield.
You get a tiny nick that spider webs
right
by the summer, and then it's
ideally you're buying a new windshield weekly.
That's, I mean, and why would you? I don't know. And Elon says all the glass on the Tesla truck or Cybertruck, he says all the glass is bulletproof. So that means theoretically, the windshield will never be Safe Light replaced.
I guess why? So when he designed this, he didn't design it, but when the Cybertruck, he signed off on it, that had to have been like 5-10 years ago. This is before he knew everyone was going to hate him and Tesla. Why did he make it? I mean, now it's a good thing that all Teslas probably Musk himself should be bulletproof. But did he know everyone was going to start hating him once he hung out with Trump? And so, I mean, what was the point of this bulletproof thing? No other cars are like, it's not fucking Mad Max. Why? I don't know. I don't get it.
Because it's just cool. The idea of being like, I'm in a bulletproof car. Like, the Beast isn't the only bulletproof car out there. Meet the Cybertruck. And by the way, I'm showing video of, I mean, obviously it's a recreation, but Carl Benz's wife, Bertha Benz, the first woman, she encouraged Carl to market his car. She was the first woman or person to take like a long road trip on Carl's design. This first Benz right there. I mean, we're looking at it. It's a I don't know. It's probably a repro maybe, but for this video purpose, but for the demonstration. But this is from Mercedes official. Like, this is their video that they created, a historical video based on Carl Benz's design. But a woman was the first to hit the road with the first automobile. So there he goes, Carl's wife. And fast forward 120 years or whatever it is, and voila, Mercedes-Benz. But it was Bertha that encouraged him, because Carl thought, no one's going to want this. No one's going to buy it. No one's going to want this thing.
She was just too early. That's all.
So again,
you kind of don't really want to be first. You want to be second.
Explain.
Well, I mean, just think about like major inventions, right? Like, you don't want to be CompuServe. You want to, you want to be Gmail. I mean, you just don't want, if you're too early, what you're doing is you're creating the market. Like you're like Nokia opening the model for iPhone.
I see what you're saying.
You don't want
to invent the wheel. You want to better the wheel.
Yeah, let
You want
some
to put
other
rubber
asshole
around it.
bring the wheel to market, and then
Right.
they lose their everyone wheel. Why would we want that?
Like, look at that wheel.
And by the
Look at
time
this
they get
wheel.
used to the wheel, that's a beautiful wheel. By the time they get used to it,
But then somebody,
I did like
the
that.
second person.
I do like that 100-year-old hairstyle that she's got, like where it's all bunned up like that. It's very cool.
And like poofed out. I never understood how the women
it's
do
very
that.
attractive, I think.
I've tried to do it just because it looks comfy.
Yeah.
And I don't know how they do the poof like all the way around.
If only there were people whose profession is to manage hair. And you could consult with these people and they might be able to tell you.
I've tried. I've looked on like Pinterest. I've looked on YouTube. My hair won't do it. Do you understand?
I have sympathetic pain for your hair because it looks like you're pulling it so tight. Like it's hurting. It looks like your scalp is like screaming.
It's stubborn Asian hair that wants to be stick straight and will not do the poof. It's not poofy hair. Asian hair is very
well. It depends on which Asian you're talking about.
Straight. I would say the majority.
My ex-wife was Taiwanese, and she had very poofy hair.
Well, no. The poof is. So I have family members that have some of the poof too. Like my brother has natural growth Dragon Ball Z hair. It goes in every direction.
A lot of Filipino ladies have very poofy hair.
But thick poofy hair is one thing, but the majority have each strand is very thick and very heavy.
Like wiry.
I've had all the heavy, like meaning it's like each individual hair
weighs 2 pounds.
It's a lot. It's each hair is very thick rather than having lots of hair follicles. I have a lot of each strand.
You just have two giant follicles.
So there's really
like each one's like
it's just heavy.
It's not the size of your follicle.
Heavy hair.
It's
actually called heavy hair. So a lot of these like Western women's hairstyles don't work for Asian women because for all the years that I've been on TV, all the hairdressers that we have at the studio would tell me my hair was too heavy to do whatever style. It was because each hair, it's heavy. My hair is heavy.
You should bring a picture of the windshield wiper lady to the hair salon and say,
I love poofy hair.
Could you do this for me?
Look at this. Can I do this, Ted? Can I do this? I couldn't do this. My hair won't do that.
You could, and then you could do the chopsticks up on top.
My hair won't. I don't know. See, that's the chopstick hair would probably work for me because it was invented by Asians for Asians.
Precisely.
For Asian hair.
Yeah.
This though,
don't do the Western thing like with the spork. No good.
This is right there, Carl Benz, like young Bertha Benz. That's young Bertha Benz.
She looks prettier than a Bertha. You might expect a Bertha to look. I mean, she's not beautiful.
She's a T.
But
Bertha, because she's German.
She's not. I mean, she's not the prettiest woman I've ever laid eyes upon.
She's
a solid 4.5.
She was a cute girl. This is I don't even know how young she was here. But anyway, she was adventurous. She was adventurous. She married Carl Benz and convinced Carl to put that shit on market. And that, where would he be without
She
Bertha?
does look smart. You can tell. I always think you can tell people are smart from their eyes.
Maybe. But where would Carl be without Bertha? And where would we be without Mary Anderson and her windshield wipers? Men stealing her idea. You men just steal. Like, they waited for they were like, you don't need it. They said, you don't need it for, until her patent expires. And then poof, Ted, magically, every guy is hawking windshield wipers.
Look, it's true that being an inventor is a hard road, especially if you're a woman, especially back then. So I'm not surprised that this happened to her. It is sad. I had a friend in high school. His father was or was it his grandfather? Yeah, it was his grandfather. Was like an insane alcoholic, and he lived with the family. And every time I'd go home with him after school to hang out, and his mom would like make a strawberry shortcake, which was yummy. I miss it so much. There would always be his grandfather crashed out drunk on like the sofa, and I never once saw him not crashed out drunk. But anyway, one day we went into his grandfather's room, and it was covered from floor to ceiling with framed patents, including for the early versions of the washer and dryer, and the vacuum cleaner. Now, obviously, there's lots of different, as we talked about for the windshield wiper, there's lots of varieties. But anyway,
or my chip clip, Ted.
Basically, long story short, he sold all of his patents for like $100 or $200. He didn't have the capital to bring them to market, so he couldn't. He could never. He was a brilliant tinkerer and inventor, but he couldn't market.
Oh, is that what happened with Nikola Tesla and Edison, basically?
Well, Edison did market.
No, that's the difference. Like Nikola Tesla somehow failed, whereas Thomas Edison's same idea took off.
Yeah, I'm not, I have to admit, I have not done a deep dive into why that happened. Right. I guess it's kind of awesome that Tesla is immortalized now by having a giant car company named after him.
And having swastikas associated with his name now. Anyway, we'll leave that right there. Poor Nikola Tesla rolling in his grave with, Elon Musk getting all the shade that he's getting. I'm not even saying that Elon doesn't deserve it. Like that's for you to decide. It's not, I don't care. But poor Nikola Tesla, his name is now being used and associated with.
Well, so according to this is why Tesla failed. He was brilliant, but a lousy business person.
There you go.
He sold his patents to Westinghouse, George Westinghouse.
Really?
For a lot of money, $60,000 in 1888. That's about $1.8 million today. But he then gave up millions in potential royalties to help Westinghouse's struggling company, which left him cash strapped. So in other words, he invested in Westinghouse, poured his own money into experiments, didn't get funding. He built a building called Wardenclyffe Tower here in New York. And what happened was it was a joint venture with J.P. Morgan. J.P. Morgan didn't really think it was going to work, yanked his funding. Tesla couldn't find new inventors. It had to be torn down in 1917 to pay off debts. So he lost a lot of money there. Famously, Edison was in favor of DC, and Tesla was in front of AC, but Edison fucked him. And then also he just became like kind of a wackadoodle late in life.
Tesla did, or Edison?
Yeah, Tesla. He claimed to talk to Martians. He obsessed over pigeons.
How do you know that's nutty?
Well, he obsessed over pigeons.
Well, you live in New York City?
What?
Did he live in New York City? Because you guys are chock full of them.
Yes, he did. He died. He died in 1943, broke in a New York hotel room.
Oh wow! What a dismal ending.
If there isn't one, there should be a biopic.
I feel like there have been some floppers out there that they tried to create about Nikola Tesla. I think there's also a show. I don't know, but I think inventors are great, and I think there should be a show dedicated to inventors.
There's one.
I think there is
with Ethan Hawke plays him. It's funny.
Mixed feelings about that.
I don't know.
He's uber Gen X.
It's apparently really a very, very dumb movie.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Like no one's done it well. Like I'm sure these Nikola Tesla movies are out there. These docs are out there. Biopics. But I think they've all been flops. And there are invention shows, but they're more based on like modern inventions. I would like to see an invention show based on historical stuff that we now use today, based on something very rudimentary, like what Mary came up with here with the windshield wiper. I would like to know, the birth of how this stuff came to be and how it evolved. And I don't think there's a lot of history shows about that. So we take it for granted. So there you go.
Right.
Little bit of fun.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Fun history, I think. You and I like history, Ted.
For sure. History's always
like, I didn't know about Mary Anderson. Did you?
No, not at all.
See,
now
we know about
fully
Mary.
Informed. All right.
Poor Mary.
All right,
guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Robbie, do we have time to do another sponsor?
Mm-mm.
Nope, we're out. Okay, that's gonna do it for us. We will be we'll be back tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern. Thank you guys for tuning in. Hit that like and subscribe button, and that way you can help ensure that the show comes back. Truly, it helps. Thank you. I'm Manila Chan. That's Ted Rall. Adios, amigos. Bye.
Bye-bye.